What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another Bring the Juice Colts podcast live stream. Today, guys, we're going to be discussing the Colts 2023 offseason and some scenarios that we think the Colts should address. I'm your host, Eric Larger. Joining me, my guy, Lawrence Owen. Lawrence, how you doing, friend? I mean, it's been a while.
It's been a little bit. I've been really busy. Obviously, I got two podcasts that I'm running through, and I got a whole bunch of content that I'm preparing for the off season. So it's just been a busy time over the last few weeks. Obviously, the way the Colts have taken a turn for even the worse over the last 8 weeks has just been difficult to even say anything kind half the time about the Indianapolis Colts. So this offseason, there are a lot of opinions out there amongst Colts Nation on what we should do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, before we even get into the offseason and all this other stuff, I mean, what has your take been on, we really haven't really talked with each other since Saturday was hired as the interim head coach. And, things have not gotten better for the Indianapolis Colts like they hoped that it would, at least from a wins perspective, right? So, what has your take been on this Colts team since midway through the season?
Well, I think Saturday was put in a really bad situation. He's got a quarterback room that is awful.
Yes.
I mean, just straight up awful. He has three assistants that's no longer here. He's short people on the offensive side of the ball, right? When it comes to coaching. So he doesn't have the guys to lean on, the guys to teach, the guys to, talk to and things of that nature. So that is a problem. And one thing I can say for him, he's kept the spirits of the players up. The offensive line looks better, which is, one of the reasons I think that he has been brought in. It's just, obviously the offensive play in general has not been what we hope for this season, period, end of discussion. I'm very glad that he hasn't, went in and tried to do anything with Gus Bradley and that defensive side of the ball, because quite frankly, I think that defensive side has been playing elite football since the beginning of the year, all the way up until now. They're just put in a bad spot because
of the offense.
Yeah, the offense just puts them in bad spots.
Yeah, I felt the same way. I've been defending the defense throughout all of this. I keep telling people, look, if you keep losing the time of possession battle and your defense knows, I mean, these guys talk in the locker room, I'm sure, and with each other, that if you're putting up 10 points a game, I mean, there's at a point the defense is just going to stop caring because they know that they can't continue to keep teams under 20 points and expect their offense to even, figure out a way. I mean, it sucks that it's become that, but like you said, you got two different channels, man. I mean, you got your regular channel. You've also got the Blevin Network with Gerard Powers, and you've even had Rodney McLeod on there as a special guest throughout.
No, he's a co-host.
Co-host too, yeah. So that's been really cool to see. Like, you've obviously been talking with him, and through all of this, through this season, the way it's been, especially for Rodney, who has come in and has been a good player from a leadership standpoint and from a production standpoint on the defense. I mean, what has his attitude been like when you guys talk about this team and how he's doing throughout this whole process right
now? Pretty much the same thing he says over and over is just do your job. Don't worry about what the offense does on the side of the ball. Make sure you do your job. That way the guys around you on the defense can do their job, and, they don't have to worry about you. As long as you're out there doing your job, then the coaches and scouts on other teams and on the team that you're currently on know what you're able to do, and, are interested in keeping you on, whether it's here with the Indianapolis Colts or elsewhere. It's all about just doing your specific job on, your side of the ball, and not really worry about the other two, position groups.
Yeah, I know it's far too much to ask him to give away any secrets, especially on how other guys are feeling about the offense. Know a lot of Colts Nation's just been fed up with the offense in general, but I'm sure, being a great teammate that Rodney McLeod is, certainly hope that he's going to stick around for a long time. So kind of getting into it, obviously there's still a game left to be played. We know at this point that the Colts could end this season anywhere from the 3rd pick in the NFL draft this year to the 6th pick, regarding if they win or lose. It just depends on a few scenarios. But the worst things first is that they could end up getting the 6th pick. Speaking of the offseason, what is the first thing that you believe the Colts should do or attempt to do when this season is officially over for them?
They got to make their decision on that head coach immediately. Immediately. Within the first 2 or 3 weeks, once the season is done. Now, obviously, there might be some guys that are in the playoffs that they can't interview until, their playoffs are done. Right. Which, there's a couple names that are obviously in there, even one that a lot of you probably ain't thinking about, but I've got a really close eye on as well. But that is the first and foremost thing. Get yourself a head coach. Now, personally, I think it needs to be an offensive-minded guy. I think it needs to be an offensive-minded guy who's willing to let the defense sit, and be as they are. Because in my opinion, a lot of these guys on our defense, they're here because of Gus Bradley.
Mm-hmm.
And if Gus Bradley isn't the DC next year, we probably won't be keeping them around. So the way that the defense is played this year, I'd love to keep the defense. So I'd get an offensive minded head coach that has either a good rapport with Gus Bradley, or is just more mindful of fixing the offense and letting the defensive guys take care of themselves. That's the first and foremost thing that I would like to see.
Yeah, I mean, that head coaching thing definitely needs to be the right fit. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on who is going to be the best candidate for this. I do have a few names of my own. I will probably give you the benefit of the doubt on this. You talk with some guys that are a little bit more understanding of which guys are better coaches for this kind of scenario, but I'll kind of just throw a few names out here to you and see how you react to it. I know Colts Nation's been talking about Jim Harbaugh. I've heard people say that if Harbaugh did want to go to the NFL, that Irsay apparently has that as like the number one priority. Like that would be his number one choice if he could convince Jim Harbaugh to leave. It depends, because I've heard like the Panthers maybe offered him like close to 20 million. I don't know if Irsay is going to do that or not, but I would say for anyone who's actually in the NFL right now, the top 2 that I would think of in this moment would be Ben Johnson for me. I like Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator for the Lions. I think he'd be my number 1. And D'Amico Ryans, the 49ers defensive coordinator. Now, I know a lot of people are thinking like, the defensive coordinator being a head coach, we want somebody in here who's going to do more from an offensive standpoint. I just feel that Ryans, I know he's only a coordinator and I know he's on the defensive side of things, but he has shown to get things out of his players. And I think that's very important as a head coach, is to be able to inspire and get your guys to be better at what they were already good at. And of course, if you bring in a good coordinator with Ryans, then I feel that could replace some things. But I know a lot of people are saying you should probably try to get an offensive minded guy, especially for the fact that the Colts probably will go looking for their quarterback of the future in this draft. What do you think of those 2 guys, and who's somebody else that you think the Colts should go after?
Well, it's an interesting pick for the Lions offensive coordinator. I can't really argue with that. They are one of the most explosive offenses in the NFL, and that's with Jared Goff at quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So I kind of get that. I understand that. The D'Amico Ryans thing, that'll be a complete flip for the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have been a zone coverage, do not blitz type defense for like the last 8 years,
Yeah.
9, 10 years,
Yeah.
something like that. And D'Amico Ryans is the complete opposite. He blitzes all the freaking time, loves man coverage. We'll see a very, very different defense
Yes.
with D'Amico Ryans at head coach. A guy that, and then with the Harbaugh thing, I've seen a lot of reports um, that Harbaugh's happy in Michigan. You
I
know,
wouldn't doubt it. I mean, of course, like you said, if you asked him like 3 years ago, he probably would have came in right away
mm-hmm.
because he was doing nothing at Michigan, really. There wasn't anything being accomplished. Even though he's lost in the playoffs 2 straight years in a row, that Michigan's in a position right now that it hasn't seen itself in over 15 years. So it's been a while, and he's in a pretty good spot right now.
So the guy that I want to throw a name out there that a lot of people probably don't even know the name and are going to be like, what? Bobby Slowick. All right. He is the offensive coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. He was the offensive pass game specialist since 2017, behind Mike McDaniel. And we all know the style of offense that the Niners run is good for any quarterback. Any quarterback. And quite frankly, I think we have the skill position players to pull off what the Niners do on a regular basis. So I think Slowick, even though he's only been an offensive coordinator for a year or 2 years, I think it's just been a year. Yeah, since the beginning of this season. I still think that that's a young guy, a young offensive minded guy who understands a system that can not only get yak yards, but big yardage from highly skilled position players and can make any quarterback look good.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with, the amount of different quarterbacks that the 49ers have had to deal with this year, you have a rookie quarterback who was deemed Mr. Irrelevant now is out there looking like one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL right now. If you can get that working for you, then, of course he was put into a great situation with all the talent and the defense helping him out. But of course, that's a big stage. That's a big thing. And to still look really good the way that he has, of course, the coordinators definitely have to be involved. Is there any other offensive coordinators that you would be interested in? Because I know Ken Dorsey from the Bills, his name's been mentioned. They keep bringing up Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs. Of course, that name gets thrown out there every year for the past 5 years. Even the Eagles offensive coordinator, he and Nick Sirianni has even given huge praise to him being the one that he is the one that is mainly the play caller now for them. Like Sirianni has mainly just been the scheme guy, and he ends up calling plays all of his own. So is there any of those other ones that interest you at all?
I don't know if Bieniemy will be a head coach this year. From what I understood, the last couple seasons, Bieniemy has been a very bad interview, right? Throughout.
Yeah,
the
that's
NFL.
what I've been hearing because I keep asking my buddies that all the time. I'm like, his name gets floated around as one of the top candidates every year, but for some reason, it just never goes that way. And I wonder if he even wants to be one, or if he just doesn't really show a lot of people some good things. I mean, I've wondered.
I will throw in Jeff Saturday's hat in the ring. I know a lot of people are going to look at me and go, "You're crazy," but this guy knows people. This guy knows a lot of former players. He knows a lot of former coaches, analysts, things of that nature. He's not going to be out there, making play calls and things of that. He's managing a game, managing a team. That's what the head coach does. If he could find him, if he's got a list of names, be like, all right, this is who I want for offensive coordinator. It's going to be, making the play call, so I don't have to, unlike a certain other, offensive play caller we had the last few years.
Yeah.
And here's the guy that I want to work with our quarterbacks. Here's the guy I want to work with our tight ends, because we don't have that anymore as well. I think him as a person, just, rallying the team, managing a game, managing the team. I think he does have a shot. I think even Jim Irsay has told him, you know what, there's a reason why he said, yeah, I'd like to be the head coach if it's offered to me. I think Irsay has said, do you have names? Do you have people? I'm sure they talk all the time. So we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. That would not surprise me at all. After they get through this process that they're about to go through, I could absolutely imagine that. Because like you said at the top of it, like he was put into an impossible situation. The offense was looking like one of the worst offenses in Colts franchise history, and was put into a situation where he had to try to fix this whole thing when it couldn't have been fixed. There was no way. So it's going to be very difficult to see what's going to happen there. But like you said, I mean, if you're going to keep Saturday, though, at the end of it all, you got to find a good coordinator. You have to, especially if you're bringing in one of these quarterbacks that you're about to. That's why I mentioned Ben Johnson off the top, because Ben Johnson, like you said, who's now been a coordinator with the Lions for 2 years. They've gone 2 straight years. Their offense is not only improved, but it's now maybe the best offense in the NFL right now. And you said it with Jared Goff of all people, right? Like people threw him to the side, and now they have the number 1 vertical offense in the NFL. And I could only imagine if you got one of these quarterbacks in the draft to have a quarterback, especially if we were going to get like Stroud or Levis or one of these guys that love to throw the ball vertically. I mean, that just feels like a really great scenario for me. What about like the coaches that are currently here now? Do you believe that there are a few of these guys that maybe like need to be reconsidered on this team, or any other position coaches that need to be like readdressed? Because we've talked about the offensive line. We've talked about, receiving. I mean, Reggie's even gone on the account, said, hey, listen, I'll stay if they ask me to, but I'm not going to stay unless they ask me to be here again.
I'd bring Reggie back from the film. I think the wide receivers have been absolutely outstanding outside of a few drops. Michael Pittman Jr. playing double and triple teams, guys on his back constantly because they know that he's the number 1 target. So teams are, doubling and tripling him all the time. And yet he's still, for the most part, pulling through. Paris Campbell has been stellar. He's open literally 75% of his routes. Yeah. It's just the quarterbacks don't throw to him.
Exactly. I've been saying that all year long. I've been saying it. He's open. Just throw him the dang ball, man.
I don't know how many times I'm like, well, there's an incompletion right there to a triple covered Michael Pittman Jr. But if you look 20 yards downfield, you see Paris Campbell wide open in the same view, of the quarterback. I'm just like, what are you doing? I want Strausser gone. I understand that, he's part of the old regime from back in the day, and he's buddies with, I don't know if he's buddies, but, he was here when Saturday was playing. So, I don't like what Strausser's done. Now, granted, the offensive line has gotten better since Saturday's been here, but still, new quarterback coach. We got to get a new quarterback coach. Straight up.
There's a lot of things. A lot of things there with that, with the offensive everything, O-line, a QB coach, everything. And it's one of those situations. I mean, me personally, I don't expect to see Matt Ryan or Nick Foles on this roster come this next season. I think one way or the other, you got to get Matt Ryan to either retire or to cut him. Financially, it just makes no sense to have him on the roster next year anyway. And Nick Foles ain't going to do nothing for us. So keep Ellinger as your backup and, bring in another quarterback. And we'll talk about some bridge quarterbacks that you said that you're interested in talking about. But before we do that, give me your thoughts on Chris Ballard, and do you believe Irsay's word when he says that Ballard will be here throughout the offseason and into next year? And what do you think Ballard needs to do to stay on the right side of Jim Irsay here?
I 100% believe Jim Irsay. He has built a hell of a roster. Granted, the quarterback position has been in that situation where it's just a rotating door over the last 5-6 years. But, you know, in his defense, who was he supposed to get at those times? Right. I mean, it is known last year he wanted Deshaun Watson, but
I've heard that there's been several times that group chose to not go rookie quarterback. And now I think it's biting them in the ass.
They did not go rookie quarterback because they didn't like what was going to be available to them at that time. And the only one that I could say, you know, that they probably could have got was probably Jalen Hurts. And who really thought Jalen Hurts was going to come out and ball the way he's balled? You know, that's the issue. Outside of that, where were they supposed to go? They would have had to trade 3 first-round picks basically in order to get up because they didn't have, you know. So
yeah, I mean, it's one of those situations. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I mean, hindsight is 2020, right? Like you can look back on it now and say, like, you know, we've been talking about Justin Fields, and we're like, you know, Ballard said he liked Justin Fields, but that he didn't want to take the risk of trading up to go and get him. Obviously, hindsight 2020, you see it now. He's playing at a really elite level if you get him some more help. But, you know, at that time, I get it. It's you're weighing the possibilities with each other, and it's difficult. It's difficult to be a GM because I think a lot of people don't understand is that it is easy to throw these chaos scenarios of betting your immediate future on a quarterback, right? And it's because the Rams did it, right? Because the Rams did it the one time and they got lucky enough to win the Super Bowl. Like, it worked for them.
And Ballard was in on Matt Stafford too,
but now, like, they're a laughing stock. Their whole thing is corrupted now. I mean, they're going to spend several years trying to fix themselves now. It's difficult because if he did do that and then it failed, then everyone would just be yelling at him for the same exact opposite reaction.
Well, it's like, okay, so in order to trade up from like the 20th or the 16th pick, it would be ridiculous to move up to number 5, you know, to say get Fields or something.
Tough.
And literally 75% of every quarterback drafted in the first 2 rounds of the NFL drafts has not been a starter in the NFL by their 4th season.
Yeah.
So it's a 75% failure rate, right, at quarterback. So you're taking a 25% chance to give 2 or 3 first-round picks to move up that much into a draft. It's just not worth it most of the time. The only way to do that is if it's a for sure pick. You know, you're not going to lose something of that nature. Now this year they're a top 10, you know, going to be a top 6 pick in the draft. So they're going to have a little bit of wiggle room. So if they want to take a chance on somebody, whoever's there, whether it be Stroud or Young, and they want to go do that, then I think that they have the firepower to move up. They can like offer a player plus their pick, or a player or their pick in maybe next year's, you know, first or something, you know. So absolutely. But Ballard, for the most part, outside of, you know, not finding the long-term answer for quarterback, has built a pretty darn good roster.
Yeah.
And you don't want to lose that. You don't want to lose him with his talent evaluators, you know, because
exactly.
You lose Ballard, you lose all of our scouters. We lose Ed Dodds. We lose Morocco Brown. You know, these guys are staying here.
And those are 2 guys that should probably be GMs at another spot too. Yes. Like, that's how good they've been.
They've turned down jobs as GMs because they like sitting behind Ballard. They've said that. Because they like this team. So Yeah.
It's just been tough. It's been tough because, you know, the criticism of Ballard has definitely been pretty warranted. Like you said, the quarterback position, the number one position, he has failed to readdress that since Andrew Luck retired. You know, that's been unfortunate. It's been tough to deal with, but you know, that's something he's going to have to get through. He has to know that it is time to do that now, that you can't hide behind it anymore. And I think the only other real bad thing about Ballard has been over the last season and a half, really. There's been a few contracts that are now going to come back to bite him a little bit. You know, that some contracts that are going to need to be reworked if some guys are not going to be playing at the level that he's paying them at, you know, particularly on the offensive line. I mean, obviously it's the most paid offensive line in the NFL. And for what it did this year, I mean, obviously Matt Pryor being in there was a huge problem. And then, you know, letting a few of those guys go in the offseason probably wasn't a great idea, but you know, some contracts are going to need to be reworked. I think this year he let a few contracts go that probably shouldn't have been, but again, you hit and miss on a lot of things. We've had guys, you know, leave or not come here because of being lowballed, and now a couple of guys are getting paid too much for their worth. I mean, I could even bring up the Mo Ali Cox contract. He's getting paid $8 million to not do anything except block. I mean, when you're getting paid that much money as a tight end, I'm sorry, you shouldn't be getting paid $8 million a year to catch one pass a game.
And that's that's not his fault. You know,
yeah,
that's not
exactly.
Mo
You're
Ali.
right. Like
That's
getting,
not
yeah,
that's
Ballard expected him to be more involved in the offense than what he actually was.
I mean, he's out there. He's got the
Yeah.
snaps, but he's blocking because the offensive line has been that bad. You know,
Yeah.
so he's
Yeah.
been
So
pretty much portrayed from being a receiver / blocker to being solely a blocker because the offensive line is underperformed. Yeah.
yep. Absolutely. You know, it's been that, you know, it's been a rough off season for Ballard. And even though you're right, I agree. He's built a relatively good roster. If you just find an answer at quarterback, I think that you can fix a lot of these problems. But you know, I asked this about with Cody, and I want to get your opinion on this. With this coaching hiring going on, you know, Ballard was the one that wanted to bring in Josh McDaniels, right? And we saw how that has turned out. And then of course that led to Frank Reich and everything else. But I do question, you know, Ballard's thought process and decision making on which court or which coach should be the one running this, because you know, it felt like, you know, Irsay over this year, you know, made that decision to hire Jeff Saturday without the consult of Chris Ballard. And now it feels like Irsay, even then, when they're asking him about this stuff, you know, Irsay is talking about it like as if it's his decision. And now, of course, owners have decisions or have weight in those decisions. Of course they do. It's their ball clubs. But but normally the GMs are the ones that are leading that process, and their scouts and their people are leading that decision making. But right now, it feels like it's Irsay ruling that decision. I do wonder, like, you know, how do you think that is going down with Ballard and Irsay? Because it seems like I don't know if there's a lot of trust there right now because of what transpired before. I don't know how to feel about it. And I don't know if I trust Ballard's decision on who the right coach is based off of who his candidates were the last time that he tried to hire people.
Well, honestly, I think Frank Reich was a fantastic hire. I think Frank Reich is a great head coach. He was just in a bad situation, you know, with the Colts. I mean, he had new quarterback every freaking year. It's amazing that they were even able to stay above 500, you know, for all that time, in my opinion. I didn't like the firing of Frank Reich. As for Josh McDaniels, I agree. You can look at him and see, you know, his tenure with the Niners and be like, or not Niners, but
The
the Raiders.
now. Yeah.
Raiders. Picturing the Raiders, Niners came out of my mouth.
It's all good. I knew I didn't like it from the beginning of it anyways.
No
I
one
didn't even
did.
need
And
the
as a
Raiders.
Colts fan, no one wanted him.
Yeah, nobody wanted him from the get-go.
No,
Yeah.
because you're a Colts fan and he was a Patriot. But
well, no. I knew that from I knew from his head coaching experience prior to that. He started 6-0, and then from that point forward, lost about 70% of his games after that. So, and a lot of people said that, he's not a very agreeable guy and things of that nature. Yeah. So, and I think a lot of people are thinking the same thing when they hear the Belichick tree of coaches, right? A lot of times they don't perform insanely well with head coaching jobs in the NFL right now. So I didn't want him from the get-go. And it just checks out now because what we're seeing with the Raiders. But, either way, it still serves as a wonder if Ballard should be the one leading this coaching surge or if it should be Irsay.
Well, to be fair, in McDaniel's defense, just because he failed in one or two places doesn't mean that he would have failed here. True. I mean, every place is completely different, different atmosphere, different players, different coaches, different everything. So, you never know. There's been times when, head coaches win Super Bowls at other teams and then gets, hired somewhere else and, utterly fail. So it is what it is. Now I personally did not like the choice of McDaniels, but that's just a personal choice, and that's how it works. I liked Frank Reich. With the Saturday thing, he probably, it was an intern. It was an intern head coach, yeah. So, that's, I don't see an issue there really, with the whole, well, I didn't go with Ballard because I wanted Jeff Saturday in here just to get the culture back, get the room back. I don't, because let's face it. I mean, this is a team, we've been very proud of our locker room and our culture for years. Mm-hmm. And I feel like Irsay was not seeing that over the last, beginning of the year, this past year. And he wanted someone to bring that culture from back in the day that knew how to bring that locker room in. And, Ballard didn't get a say in it. It is what it is. I'm sure Ballard will have plenty of say in who's actually hired now as the long-term head coach. Now, the interviews generally, anytime a head coach is interviewed, it's with the owner and the GM or the president, CEO, whatever. Those are the guys that do the interviews for the head coaches. And it's generally it's not just a GM thing. It is an owner thing too. And they generally, they usually, a coach comes in, they sit down, and you got 3 executives, sometimes 4 executives with that team that is interviewing that person for the head coaching position. So it's more of a group effort than a single mind when it comes to hiring a head coach.
Very true. All right. Well, we talked about the coaching thing. We've said our piece with that. Now we kind of have to go to the off season and about what kind of moves this Colts team's actually going to make. You said to me before we started that you thought there was actually some quarterbacks in this free agency class that could actually be of interest for the Colts, even if they were going to go quarterback in this draft. Now, I know a lot of Colts Nation and by the way, there's 170 of you in here right now. Thank you very much. Be sure to like the stream. I know a lot of people in this stream may not want to hear you say this argument, but we got to hear it from you. Why don't you go ahead and explain to me why you think that there's some quarterbacks here that might actually be a good idea for the Colts to maybe get?
Me personally, my number one rule when it comes to having a quarterback is they need to be a 10-year starter, right? They need to be able to play 10 years. So no one over 30. Okay. No one over 30. And then they need to have shown that they at least can be a top 10 quarterback, right? To be a free agent pickup, because they have been a top 10 quarterback in the NFL. Now, obviously, there's a lot of rumors going around right now with Lamar Jackson and, the Ravens, maybe not going to re-sign him because, they have question marks about his work habits. If Lamar Jackson hits the free agent market, throw the book at him.
Yeah, I would imagine so. Unless they offer him, 50 million guaranteed.
I know, I get that, but I mean that is a game changing quarterback in the NFL.
Oh, it is.
Is he the best passer in the NFL? No, but his ability to extend plays and be electric and things of that nature make him, a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. Maybe the best football player overall in the NFL, right? Not saying he's the best passer by any means. And I know there's a couple guys in here that's going to argue with me and get mad.
Well, I mean, I would argue, he's not had a lot of great weapons. I mean, he has had, Mark Andrews, which has become, a really good thing for him. But from a vertical wide receiver threat that, gets open consistently, doesn't have a ton of those.
He had Hollywood Brown for years.
He did have Hollywood Brown, and there's
then
a lot
Hollywood
of
leaves and goes to
of him
another team,
overthrowing him and things of that nature. I do question. I talked with my buddy about this, and he says that he doesn't believe that Lamar's going to last another 5 years in the NFL because the way that he plays, right? Like his style of being a quarterback is just not sustainable for the kind of thing that teams want. Now, he might still be in the NFL, but his, like his abilities, like in another 3 or 4 years is just not going to be a good thing anymore. So it's a question mark. It's a question mark with the durability.
I'll tell you what Gerard told me that threw me over the fence for Lamar, because I was under the same impression. He said, okay, so he gets a little older. He's going to learn not to take hits. He's going to slide more often.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets a little older and his legs ain't going to be as fast. He, instead of being a 4.3 runner, he's going to be a 4.4 runner. He'll still be the fastest guy on the field.
Mm-hmm.
That even if he slows down a little, it's kind of like, how Michael Vick, right?
Mm-hmm.
Michael Vick became a better passer because he wasn't running as much.
Mm-hmm.
He became a better passer overall in his later time.
Mm-hmm.
I think Lamar Jackson still will be a dynamic player, even close to 30. It's just
true. He could be.
Yeah. It's just, he's going to have to learn to not take the hits that he has in the past. And I think the injuries that he's had over the past year and a half will help him in learning that, because we didn't start seeing Andrew Luck start sliding and stuff like that until his 6th season.
Because, it was quite a few years of some unnecessary hits before he learned, try not to take those, right?
Exactly.
And I always try to refer to like the Cam Newton thing. Cam Newton was the same way for a long time. That was his offense. And then, he started trying to learn to slide, but even then it was still getting to a point where you're still taking late hits because he still wasn't sliding early enough or getting out of bounds enough. It was just, it's a thing of him trying to change his game. But you're right. Like he's so dynamic right now that even if he became a little less dynamic, doesn't mean that he's not dynamic anymore. He's just that much more dynamic than everyone else on the football field. So.
It's just, that's the case, it's kind of like when, say Kansas City, remember Joe Montana, ended up hurting his shoulder, left the 49ers, went to Kansas City, even at his older age, after the shoulder injury, he was still, because he was such a dynamic thrower of the football, he was still as good as every other quarterback in the NFL, that were top 10 because of that. So it's just, this is a little bit different on the different aspect with the legs of Lamar Jackson. There's another player I want to talk about in free agency, and every time I brought him up, I've had a lot of people look at me cross-eyed. And I was saying this before we played them last week. Daniel Jones is a top 10 quarterback in the NFL.
I'm not going to laugh at you. But go ahead and explain to the people.
Okay. He has the least interception percentage in the NFL. He does not turn the football over at all. Yep. He is second in the NFL in rushing yardage, only behind, he's got 700 yards rushing as a quarterback. Mm-hmm. He has over 67% completion percentage.
Yeah. And he literally just did what he did to a potential top 10 defense with no wide receiver help whatsoever.
He has a top 10 passer rating and a top 10 QBR.
It's a question mark of, do the Giants actually keep him around though? I mean, seeing what they've seen from him this year. I don't know if they'll let him walk.
I don't know either. But he is a free agent currently next year, but Daniel Jones has done all this stuff with Slayton being his best receiver.
Yeah. He's not had good receivers at all. Especially this year, he's had no wide receiver help.
Arguably, his best receiver has been Saquon Barkley.
Yeah. I mean, and of course, if he came to Indy, he'd just be switching one great running back for another great running back, right? And Jonathan Taylor. So, that's that. I mean, I don't know. I would be a little hesitant to think he could be one, but I do agree with you that if he had the weapons like what Indy has right now, even right now with Michael Pittman, Alec Pierce, and Paris Campbell, and with some of the tight end weapons that are out there right now, no doubt that he could improve his numbers a little bit right now.
Well, here's another little thing. All right. In my opinion, Daniel Jones, when he came out in the draft, was equal to the top two guys in this draft. All right. And most people did. I mean, there's a reason why he was a top 5 pick in the draft. Right, Daniel Jones was. So, and now he's got 4 years in the NFL. He's got the experience. He's got that under his belt already. You don't have to wait for that for him to blossom and grow, because he's already done that, and he's even getting better. So, you're skipping the learning period of a young quarterback as well, if by chance you end up picking up Daniel Jones. I'm just saying.
And I am Parker's saying, can you comment on Daniel Jones's turnovers from fumbles since joining the league?
Absolutely. His rookie year, he led the NFL with 19, and it has dropped dramatically year after year after year.
Yeah.
To the point where right now he has the second least fumbles in the NFL.
Yeah. It's like you can't
starting quarterback.
You can't bring up a rookie stats very often when you're trying to talk about, like, Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions his rookie year. Everyone want to throw him outside of the bus because he did that. No, he was a rookie. Okay. Yeah. It takes a while to get used to, especially when you came into a dumpster fire of an organization like what the Giants were 3 years ago. Now they've got a better GM. They've got a really good head coach that believes in their players. And it's why the Giants, who have virtually no offensive weaponry, are, still putting up, or now putting up 25 points a game on people, because their coach believes in them and they're working the system right.
Exactly. He had 19 his rookie year. He cut that in half his sophomore year at 10, and then 7. And this year, 6. For a full season, he's only had 6 fumbles. And that's strip sacks and everything. Okay. And that's pretty impressive. He literally has the least turnovers of any starting quarterback who's played at least 13 games this year, of any quarterback in the NFL. The least. That's some impressive numbers right there. And he's just gotten better and better and better. His interception percentage, rookie year, 2.6. Then 2.2, then 1.9. This year, 1.1. Best in the NFL. Best.
Yeah, I've noticed that his interception numbers, like Matt Ryan could only dream of that.
Completion percentage, 61.9 his rookie year, then 62.5, 64.3. This year, 67.2. He is literally
with the fewest amount of help from his wide receivers yet, and has still increased his completion percentage.
Literally, year after we talked about Josh Allen and how if he kept getting better and better and better, that he was going to be a dynamic football player. Daniel Jones is the same way. He's just kept getting better and better and better every year, and without the weapons that Josh Allen has, So that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I'd agree with him being a top 10, but you're right. You do have the argument of there has been consistent improvement. I think just people are not wanting a retread or wanting somebody else from in the league. Of course, when people have their minds made up about that, that's just going to be what it is. Real quick to UCF Jaguar, who do y'all got in the AFC South Championship game tonight? I'm taking the Jags, man. Give me the Jags. I like what Trevor Lawrence has done through the last 7 weeks of the season. I think he's had almost 20 touchdowns in the last 7 games and has really been playing outstanding football. And I think that they're more complete. Now, I will say this, Derrick Henry has been going crazy these last several weeks. So we'll see if you guys are able to stop him or not.
I got the Jags by 17.
All right, so you have them blowing them out. Jesus. I might have to bet on that if you're so confident in it. Jeez. Okay. Well, I mean, yeah, Malik Willis Malik Willis isn't playing, is he? He's who's playing for them right now? Who's playing quarterback for the Titans right now? Is it
Dobbs?
Oh, Dobbs. Yeah, that's right. Forgot about that. Yeah. It's poor Malik. Anyway, okay.
If this was in Tennessee, it'd be a little bit different. I think it'd be a closer game, but it's in Jacksonville. This is going to be a monster.
We'll have to deal with that. All right. So you said Daniel Jones. We were talking about Lamar Jackson earlier. I appreciate the takes on those. I know some people don't want to hear it. What's your thoughts on the whole Derek Carr thing coming up again? Obviously, it sounds like his time in with the Raiders is coming to an end.
I know Ballard was really key on Carr last year as well, last couple years. Look, I think Carr is still a really good quarterback. He's borderline top 10. Borderline. I think he had 12, 13, somewhere in that general vicinity.
Yeah.
He's a darn good quarterback, and he's just not the guy that a certain Raiders head coach was wanted there. He made it clear the day he walked in, and it wasn't just him. It was other people too, the coach before him, Gruden didn't really want Carr, but Carr has been nothing but just a leader, over the last few years. I mean, look what he did last year under the mess that the Raiders were under, and then ends up, pulling the team together, basically puts the whole team on his shoulders and wills them to the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And then this year, with the way this team has pretty much was a dumpster fire the first 6 weeks.
Oh yeah. Dumpster fire.
Now look at them, they've won the majority of their games the last 8-9 weeks. So, ever since the Indianapolis Colts game, they've lost one game, I think. So
so to answer this right here, Waller was hurt the entire year. So was Renfro the entire year, pretty much.
Waller just came back.
Top running back in the league from the weeks 10 to now, when the season for them was practically over. Again, you could say whatever you want. Their season was over when Josh Jacobs started playing at the level that he's at. That's on coaching. Carr can only do so much. It's when the team just gives up on it. I mean, there's only so much that your quarterback can do.
But I put Carr and Mayfield and guys like that in the category of, you get those guys as veteran leaders and still go after that top quarterback in the draft. One of the top 2 quarterbacks in the draft, and you let them sit there, and then whoever wins in the offseason or in preseason training camp can start this year, and I'd be okay with that. That's something Jacoby Brissett is another one of those quarterbacks. I'd be okay with that. Brissett wasn't a bad quarterback here with the Colts. He just, he didn't like taking shots downfield,
Mm-hmm.
even though he had a cannon for an arm. But he was a great locker room presence, great leader, great, didn't turn the football over, that kind of stuff. He played very well with the Browns, kept the
Parker,
Browns in it.
I don't think this stat, Parker, really indicates exactly what you think it does. Okay. The fact that they're only 5 fumbles apart, but Carr has played about 26 more games, I think is exactly the opposite of what you're intending for it to be. But anyway, the Derek Carr thing, I doubt it'll happen.
I doubt it too.
But when we're talking about this team, I think everyone is under the same impression that the Colts need to go and get their quarterback of the future.
They absolutely do.
Draft, especially now, because you're hoping that whatever your quarterback situation is, whatever your head coaching situation is, next year you have a new revitalized group. You're hoping that you won't have to be in this situation for a long time, at least from a draft position perspective. Like I said before, worst case scenario, they're going to finish in the top 6. So prime position that if they were going to go for a quarterback, this is one of those situations where you can do it. I'll ask you, do you think that they would trade up from where their current position is? And then give me a rundown on who you believe the Colts will most likely try to target, whether it be from trading up or just from where the position that they're at right now.
I don't think they trade up.
Don't think they trade up. Think you're going to stay at 5 or 6?
The only way that they trade up is if someone I think needs a center, or maybe, so something of that nature, because Ryan Kelly, I think we have a good backup in Pinter in that situation. It would free up a little bit of money for us. Plus, I get that Kelly hasn't been playing his best football over the last year and a half, but it's been since, not just him. But I do
question it, because it's like, you're at 6, maybe. I mean, you're going to be in the top 6, but you didn't have to question, how many other teams that are either right in front of them or right behind them are going to go and try and get one, especially with, we know Houston's going to,
I honestly, I think it'll take more than 2 first-round picks to get into the top 3 this year, because of how overvalued quarterbacks are right now. You would need to give your first round pick, even if it's number 6, you would have to give this year and next year plus some extra, I think, to get top 3.
You might have to.
And I don't think any of these quarterbacks are worth that much. I don't think they're worth that chance. Especially, look, this is a better draft than last year.
Oh, 100%. Because Kenny Pickett was the only one.
It's not better than the year before. And that's what, Mac Jones and them, or, it's not better than the year that Herbert and them came out in, so this draft doesn't have a guarantee. That's my issue. That's my problem. You don't trade your future away for a coin flip. That's the problem that I have with that. So I would sit pat and see who falls.
Guess that's true. I think the only thing I would think of is, I think that if you were asking the Colts to trade away 2 first rounders and outside of this year, then I would say that's going to be a problem. I have no problem with saying, okay, you want my first rounder next year, maybe like a 3rd next year or something like that. I have no problem taking that chance. If you are going to go and get the likes of Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. We obviously know that you don't believe either one of these guys is a guarantee. It is what it is. I think that it comes down to the fact of who they have as a coach. That's going to make a big difference in that matter. Like I'll agree with you that if, the Colts go and get somebody like D'Amico Ryans or Leslie Frazier or something, and then don't get a good coordinator to back them up, then you're putting that quarterback into a bad situation because you need somebody that's going to be able to, enhance their abilities and develop them correctly. Because like you said, I mean, every one of these guys has an issue that they're all going to have to fix one way or the other.
I wouldn't pick Bryce Young in this draft at all.
Really?
If it was me personally, no. He's too much like Kyler Murray.
I would agree with you. I'd agree with you a little bit on that. I mean, everyone knows my Ohio State bias with CJ Stroud, but I mean, you did say though, if the Colts decide not to trade up,
yeah,
do you think that, Will Levis or Anthony Richardson would be still available there at 6?
Oh, I think Richardson was a late first round pick. I think Richardson ends up being a late first rounder.
You don't think that anyone in the league is going to just pull their balls up and just say, all right, let's go do this. I think somebody will.
I don't think so. Now Levis, maybe. I think Levis could end up going in the top 10. But now, to be fair, I've only seen a couple games from each of these guys this year because I haven't watched a whole crap ton of college football this year, being that I've been solely focused on the NFL. I go into college once I get into the college all 22. I start calling up and emailing colleges and asking for their all 22 for a few games once the NFL season is over with. So I'll have a much better personal opinion of each of these quarterbacks probably mid-January. So that's maybe late January actually. Late January, early February. Yeah.
Gotcha. Brian Williams with the $5 super chat. Thank you, Brian. Imagine if the Colts sign Lamar Jackson and then draft Will Anderson. Probably not going to happen, but we all have dreams and hopes right now. Absolutely. Everybody does. Hey, listen, that would fix our quarterback and give us a guaranteed edge rusher that, is going to solidify that edge rush for a long time. And, you then can move Dio Dangbo into the middle a lot more often and put him where he needs to be.
I do want to say something real quick.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people put a lot of emphasis on combine numbers. All the scouts, players, GMs that I've heard talk to or heard them talk about put much less emphasis on combine or pro days than they do the film. Right.
Yeah, 100%. That's what you should do. 100%.
You look at the film before you look at anything.
Every time. Yeah.
Every time. Because, combine numbers lie sometimes. Straight up.
Yeah.
For instance, Daniel Jones is faster than 4.8 runner. So is Shaquille Leonard. They're both faster, and they both ran 4.8 combines, but they're much faster than that because they were hurt when they ran. So these guys are out here, they're playing, they're trying to run these combines. You're not realizing, oh, well, he's got a slightly, pulled hammy or he's got a kink in his shoulder when he's throwing the football or something like that. You look at the film and you go by what the film shows you, because the film shows you play speed, his true accuracy, in-game accuracy, his knowledge on the film, stuff like that. That's 100%. Why I put so much emphasis on game film than I do over combine and pro day numbers.
Yeah, I love watching the combine and stuff like that. I mean, it's fun to watch these guys, put on the show that they do. And, and sometimes sometimes it could be the reversal. Sometimes when you see these guys run, like what we saw Jelani Woods do in the combine this last year, nobody realized how fast he was until we saw him without pads running a straight line, and that boy could fly. Like that's something that puts you on the radar. But you're right. Like, I mean, that's the problem nowadays is, I hear people say like, you need to go for the guy who's fast. You need to go for the guy that's this. You need to go for the guys that. No, I want to find the guy that when he was playing one-on-one with somebody on the outside, did he beat his man? Did he overpower his man? And he made a better throw than the guy that's guarding him? Like what did they do in games matters a ton more than any measurable that any guy could ever put up.
Agreed. Just combine numbers, the biggest combine stat, I think, that is the eye opener is your 3-cone. That is the one that you really need to keep an eye on.
The scouts will tell you, like the GMs and the scouts will tell you, that's actually the one thing they always look at for everyone more than any other one. The 40-yard dash is the one thing everyone looks at, but the actual people who actually draft these people, you're right. The 3-cone, that shows more of your explosiveness and your ability to get open.
It shows your explosiveness. It shows your change of direction speed. It shows your agility. You know, I mean, the 3-cone is the number one thing to keep an eye on. If you got a guy running a 3-cone under 7, he's got a good ability there.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Okay, so as far as like the draft and everything else, we'll probably go for a few more minutes here and then we'll finish it up. We've talked about the coaching process and what we should do to go into the draft. But what other position do you believe the Colts should be looking to attack in this draft? Obviously, they got to get a quarterback, but outside of that, there's a whole other draft that needs to happen. And say somehow, some way, they may not get the guy that, that they want, or if, for some reason that the top 4 quarterbacks go inside the top 5 and they miss them, then like what else should the Colts do?
All right. So a lot of it has to do with who ends up being the head coach. And if Gus Bradley is here, and we ended up re-signing Yannick Ngakoue, then the number 1 edge rusher is not so big of a deal. But if he ends up leaving, we need a number 1 edge rusher. All right. Look, we got defensive tackles and we got edge rushers for, the strong side, but we don't have a speed edge rusher outside of Yannick Ngakoue. We don't have a 9 or a 7. So that, if all of those are gone, we've not had a top 10 edge rusher pick since Dwight Freeney. And that's where you get those guys. All of these big bad MFers that are edge rushers are top 10 edge rushers in the draft. Everybody says, well, I want a Bosa or I want a Watt, or they're all top 10, or a Chase, Young or something like that. Those are all top 10 guys. So if all the quarterbacks are gone by the time the Colts pick, that's a guy that I would keep an eye on. Dio is not a Y9 or a Y7. Okay. Dio is a defensive tackle, or he is a strong side edge rusher. Dio is not a speed guy. He's more like DeForest Buckner. Dio is absolutely almost exactly like he's almost a copy print of DeForest Buckner. So great depth. He could be a starter, absolutely, just not at that speed outside edge rusher position. Mid round, 3rd, 4th, 5th, you got to get yourself a right guard. You got to. You're going to pick up a solid starting right guard at that position. Look, Will Price has gotten better. He's still not he's borderline bottom end starter. I would like to have a mid starter at that position. I think we'll be fine there. Left tackle is another position that we could go high in this draft. We already have so much money on the offensive line. Think about this. If you're picking up a left tackle right now, he's under a rookie contract. By the time you have to pay him, all the other contracts on that offensive line are done. All of them.
Gotcha.
So it won't matter. People talk about, well, we already spend so much. It won't matter, at this point in time. So, but I think Bernard Ryman has gotten better this year and could be the long-term starter, but I don't want to put all my eggs in just the Ryman basket. They talk about you need competition, go get stinking competition.
Yeah. They definitely need to build that left tackle spot, because you're right, because Ryman's now the only competent left tackle over there at this point. They have to go and get somebody to fill that backup spot. Maybe now they can get somebody that actually has had some experience at the position, because even Ryman with his 1 year in the NFL still will have less games experience than most other guys coming into the league this year.
So, he's got 3.5 years total. At the end of this season, he'll have 3.5 years of being an offensive lineman. I mean, so I expect him to just get better and better and better. But also, he's like, what, 26, 27 now?
He's 26,
yeah. I mean,
so he's part way through his career already, and he's just in his first year in the NFL. So it'll be interesting. So, okay. So let's just kind of, to end this, let's just kind of recap it. I'm just going to ask you your best case, your dream scenario, if you could have it any way that you wanted, for coach, quarterback, other draft pick that you would want to have, and maybe like a free agent or something at another position that you hope the Colts could get. It doesn't have to be realistic, just who you would want. So at head coach, who's your dream scenario for them to have?
Sean Payton.
Okay. All right. Hey, listen, there's been rumors. Okay. The Broncos and the Colts were the first two teams that got rumored with that. So we'll see. I
think Sean's retired. It's going to stay retired, but you asked for my dream hire.
Hey, I asked for the dream hire. That's what I asked for. Okay. What about quarterback? Who's dream case scenario right now?
Dream case? Oh, the guy over there that's a Raven right now. That's my
Lamar Jackson.
Case.
Okay. Hey, listen, it's a shot. It's a shot.
I mean, if you want a bigger dream, I could say Josh Allen, but that's not happening.
Let's go even further. Let's go Patrick Mahomes. If only the Chiefs would even entertain that idea. I mean, the amount of teams that would say that if they were allowed to have him, like, to take their first rounders for the next 6 or 7 years and take that contract, you're telling me that every team except maybe one would do that. So that's very true. Okay. So a player in the draft that would be dream case scenario that you could have on the Colts.
Well, if we have the quarterback already under the thing, I don't know the draft as well, but man, if we could grab, is there a TJ Watt or a Nick Bosa style pass rusher?
No, not that special, but I do know Will Anderson is the number one edge rusher in this draft for sure. But there might be a couple more of them next year, honestly.
Maybe or oh my God, left tackle guy.
There's a couple really solid ones in the first round. I know Peter Skoronski and from Northwestern and Paris Johnson from Ohio State are the best two in the draft right now. They're going to be guaranteed number ones.
But I would maybe, trade back like 3 or 4 spots, get for somebody else's later first round pick, and then grab your Anderson dude, as the backup. Later in the first round pick, right? Yeah. That would be dream situation and still get an end, whether it's a left tackle or a pass rusher.
Yep. And so in regards to all free agents, like we've already kind of talked about the quarterback, but is there a defensive player, an offensive player that is going to hit free agency that you would want to have?
Oh my goodness. That's
because hey, listen, if I could, I would love to get Orlando Brown from the Chiefs, but of course that contract is going to be it's going to be very interesting to say the least. But hey, Marcus Peters is going to be a free agent this year. Don't know about him. Jesse Bates is going to be a free agent at safety, but then again, I don't know if we really need safety at this moment.
No, we're so deep at safety. Even if Rodney McLeod is not here next year, we're still
you'd have Julian Blackmon and Rodney Thomas at this point. They run the show pretty well.
Yeah, so. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. Give me a second. Let me look real quick. I haven't really gotten a good. I understand you're
him, folks. I don't give him a little bit.
Yeah,
give him a little bit of time.
I don't want. Look, I don't want Marcus Peters. He's been injury prone like crazy,
and he's 30 years old, so he's getting older.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe Cam Sutton. Yeah, maybe. But there's not a lot of guys out there right now off the top of my head. Let me look here. This one. See what we got.
Hey, I heard Saquon Barkley's going to be a free agent after this year. So
no,
have two amazing running backs on the roster and Jonathan Taylor and Saquon.
If
just we run the triple option the whole time. That would mess some teams up so bad. You know it would.
Well, yeah. I mean, come on. I'm still looking at, because this is something that I wasn't expecting.
Yeah, I kind of threw that one on. Yeah, I just didn't know if there was one guy that you would
oh geez. Oh my. Mike Gesicki. Oh yeah, that would be nice. I wanted him last year.
Obviously the Dolphins used the franchise tag on him this last year. I don't think he's going to want to do it again. So
I think we have game-changing wide receivers if we get the right quarterback, right? Yeah. I do. I like our top three receivers. Here's the thing. Trade out Mo Alley Cox for Mike Gesicki, and I am all on that, because then I think 100%. We have amazing tight end room, right? Because Kylan Granson has just really exploded this year, and then he got hurt, right? Jelani Woods is getting better and better as time goes on, and then Mike Gesicki would just be
God, yeah, wow. Like Gesicki with Jelani. Oh my God, I'm surprised Dalton Schultz is going to be a free agent guy as well, but I'd imagine that Cowboys are probably going to end up paying him. He's their second best weapon in that offense right now. So, all right. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. It was a good episode. Really appreciate Lawrence for stopping in today. I didn't want to have to do this stream without somebody else being in here, because, you know, you guys have heard me talk so much about my thoughts on what this off season is going to go like. And it's nice to have a differing opinion on certain things. And I always respect Lawrence's understanding of where he comes from, because he talks to a lot more people that are higher up than me. So I appreciate you coming on, Lawrence, and spreading some knowledge here for us. And hey, man, I hope that over this off season we can have you on a lot more.
Yeah, that'd be great. Are you, just off the top, are you doing a live game reaction today to any of the games?
No, I'm not. I don't think I'll end up doing either. I could potentially do one for the last game, but that's it.
I've already got one set up. I'm going to be doing the Jags Titans.
Oh, nice.
Game. Yeah,
nice.
Me and Lloyd.
I don't think I would, because I'm just going to end up, if I do end up watching the football games, especially the last one, I'll probably just watch it. I don't think I would stream it.
All right. But yeah, this was fun. And someone in the chat just said that Paris Campbell's a bust. You must be out of your mind. I think
you're just a hater is what you is.
When healthy, I think he's the best receiver we have on our team.
Yeah, literally. The amount of missed opportunities for a Paris Campbell this year, because we didn't have competent quarterback play. Y'all are crazy.
Oh my goodness.
Especially since he played all year. He never got hurt.
Yep.
And there was a good point that for about 3 weeks, Paris Campbell was the best wide receiver on our team, and it wasn't even close.
He's 6th in the NFL in yards per separation per route.
6th, y'all. He hasn't lost a step at all, with the fact that for how many surgeries he's had on his lower body, and he's still doing that.
It's ridiculous. He's easily, our most
he needs to be resigned over the
and it's not like he doesn't show that he can make. I mean, there was that one game he was making catches in traffic over and over and over and over, getting
100%.
hammered. So yeah, I feel like Paris Campbell needs resigned, and I think we can get him cheap because his first 3 years was so injury riddled. When I say cheap, like $6 to $8 million.
Yeah, $6 to $8 million.
That's cheap for a good wide receiver. That's way cheap.
Oh yeah, you give him a 1-year deal with $6 million or $6 or $7 million. You give him an incentive that says, hey, if you play, 15 plus games, then we'll give you like another $1 million or $2 million in incentives. And then you're gonna get a healthy player next year, and then you can sign him to a better extension.
Absolutely.
That is what it is.
Sorry, I had to bring that up because I saw some people.
No, it's all good. It's all good. No, I me as a Buckeye fan myself, and as a proud partner of wanting my Buckeyes to succeed in the NFL. I have a very good connection with Paris Campbell, and I do not want anyone mess with him.
I just hope that we re-sign Taekwon and Paris, and their injury history is done. That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah.
581 yards this year, contract year for a second rounder. By far his best year, bust. Bro, you literally take that as if we had a quarterback throwing the football here.
Or
we
the fact that
he
was literally open on almost every stinking, literally 75% of the routes.
I can show you a highlight reel of Matt Ryan taking a sack for no reason at all and Paris Campbell being open on the route. 100%.
Oh, I plan on doing that this offseason.
Please do. I want to share it. I want to upload it to the channel and give you credit and say, if y'all think this is a bust, then you're looking at the wrong position.
Right.
Seriously. All right. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for the turnout. Over 200 people in here at one point. Fantastic. Hope you guys have a great rest of your weekend. And as always, guys, go Colts.